the outside of Chicago Stadium, it may look like just concrete, brick, and mortar. But as in people, the true beauty and character of the stadium lies inside. That character comes from the unique pipe organ, the foghorn, and most importantly, from the fans who gather to be entertained, but are really part of the show. Tonight, they gather one more time to remember the roar. Right now, they do not have to remember the roar because they are roaring here inside of Chicago Stadium. Welcome to a very special night of hockey right here on Sports Channel. The Chicago Blackhawks take on the Toronto Maple Leafs in the final regular season game here at Chicago Stadium. This is going to be a night of memories, along with a night of some pretty decent hockey as well. And if I can indulge myself for a moment, one of my fondest memories of Chicago Blackhawk hockey was that day in 1973 when the Chicago Blackhawks made a trade with the Vancouver Canucks, and in that trade, they acquired Dale Talon. Now let's go upstairs to one of my favorite players of all time, Dale Talon, number 19.
I'm not going to pay for that overdue tuxedo bill, regardless of what you say, but this is a night that we'll all remember. A bittersweet night here at Chicago Stadium in Chicago sports history. 65 years in the most glorious building in all of sports, the greatest fans, some of the greatest teams, and some of the greatest events that have ever occurred in Chicago Stadium. This, I remember coming up the stairs as a young 19-year-old boy with the Vancouver Canucks, so nervous I could hardly tie my skates. I got my first ever NHL point in this building. I was on the ice when Stan Mikita scored his 500th, an historic goal. Just happened to be on the ice with him, not anywhere near him, but it was quite a moment. I watched the Chicago Blackhawks play a lot of great games in this building. They went 11 straight to go to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 seasons ago, and then saw Pittsburgh stayed around with the Stanley Cup. The Blackhawks have lasted for a long time. They will continue to improve and get better, but this building is a tough situation for a lot of people involved, but progress, I guess, is around the corner and over to a new building. 1 million square feet, beautiful with sky boxes, etc. I'm sure the fans will always remember this, but the Chicago Stadium has always been a positive place for many. During the past 65 years, the stadium has hosted a variety of classic events. Here's a video recap of some of the greater moments in Chicago Stadium history.
That's the sight inside Chicago Stadium. It's going to be a very special night tonight indeed. People are here early. They're ready to go. They're ready to rock the house, and they're ready to remember the roar as we get ready for the final regular season game here at Chicago Stadium. Joining me, as he's been at my side all season long, is Bill Gardner. Bill, talk a little bit about your memories of playing in this building, because you certainly played a lot of hockey here as a member of the Chicago Blackhawks, and it is indeed a special building.
Well, my fondest memory is probably sitting beside Tony Esposito for 3 years. He was an idol of mine as I was a kid growing up. I really enjoyed being beside him. Also, as Dale mentioned, going up those stairs. Nobody knows the feeling of going from that dark tunnel from the bottom of the basement to the up to the stairs, and then you're in the lights, the crowd, and the national anthem. Great atmosphere.
And my fondest memory of Chicago Stadium, really, when I was a kid following the Blackhawks, is the fact that really, Chicago Stadium only existed in your mind for a lot of kids around here because the games weren't on home TV, and you listened to the games on the radio, you listened to Lloyd Pettit, and you had this image in your mind of what Chicago Stadium was like. And sometimes that image in your mind was almost even really better than what existed, because I know, Bill, you followed the Blackhawks when you were growing up in Ontario, and this was a mythic place to you as well.
It definitely was. I really did follow the Hawks because they were my favorite team, even though I lived in Toronto. And it was a pleasure to come down the stadium and see what how the stadium was built compared to Maple Leaf Gardens where I grew up. But it was just fantastic, the way it's built, the sections on top of each other, and of course the crowd makes it here at the stadium.
Okay, what's going on inside here is only part of the flavor of what's going on tonight. Let's go outside, see what Mike Goldberg has as he talks to some of the fans outside the building.
Well, Jim, it is a night of reflection and reminiscing. What will soon be the past, the old Chicago Stadium at 1800 West Madison, and what will be the future, the United Center where the Blackhawks will play their home games 1 year from now. I think it's a night where all the fans have a soft spot in their heart and reminisce a bit. And one lady who knows about reminiscing, Gladys Wheeler. Gladys, you've been watching Blackhawks hockey for 55 years.
That's right, Mike. I've been here for 55 years.
From a fan's point of view, what is tonight like? I would imagine it's very emotional.
It is. It's very nostalgic, and it kind of really tugs at your heartstrings to think that we will not be in the stadium any longer.
When you were driving to the stadium, and I talked to you yesterday, did you think about some things that really stood out in the past in Blackhawks history for you?
I think probably the most memorable event probably was the All-Star game, and the emotions that the fans projected over TV, and to think that it went all over the world. I think that probably was the most memorable event that I can remember.
Yeah, Gladys, just one of many tonight, kind of reminiscing on the moment, Jim, and we'll try to visit with some more fans throughout the evening. Right now, let's go back downstairs to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Goldie. And Gladys is also the president of the Blackhawks Standbys, one of the best fan clubs and fan organizations in the entire world of sports. You know, just a second ago, when I was over at the stairs, Bobby Hull was there, kind of firing up the real Blackhawks, the current Blackhawks, as they get ready for tonight's game. Earlier today, we had a chance to talk to Bobby Hull about what he remembers from his first game as a Chicago Blackhawk.
Every year at training camp, after training camp, we'd come into this building and walk through the halls, and the halls would be full of those tremendous fans out there, and they'd say, how many are you going to get this year, Bobby? You're going to get 50, you're going to get 60, and they heaped the pressure on, and I just loved it. I love playing under pressure.
Hall always will be one of the greats in Chicago Blackhawk history. The Blackhawks Remember the Roar pregame show is brought to you in part by your local Dodge dealers.
We created a new automotive category. Brought the American Roadster back up to speed. And reshaped the four-door sedan. You could say we've changed all the rules. Makes you wonder what we'll think of next. The new Dodge.
In Chicago, you look up and say, there's the Big Dipper and United Airlines. You see the moon and United. Every time you look up, there's United, with 1,000 flights in and out, more than any other airline. More United flights than stars? Some nights, yes. Come fly Chicago's hometown airline. Come fly the friendly skies.
The stadium is getting ready to rock one last time. Are you?
Are you ready to rock?
Be sure to see the very last Blackhawk games at Chicago Stadium live. It's Hawk Vision. Call your cable company to order home playoff games at the same low price as last season. Nothing rocks like the stadium, and you don't want to miss the final games.
Rock your house.
To order Hawk Vision, call your cable company now.
You look at the banners hanging from the rafters here at Chicago Stadium. Billy, you were a part of the teams that hung some of those banners, but you never got the Stanley Cup Championship one. Was that disappointing? Because you played on some pretty good teams.
Well, it really was disappointing, but that's just part of it. There's 26 teams. Somebody's got to win. We had some great years. We had 3 years we went to the semifinals when I were here. A lot of great memories from that.
And don't forget, coming up in this pregame show, we'll have all the pregame ceremonies, including the singing of the national anthem and the lowering of the banners. That's all coming up. Earlier in the day, we had a chance to talk to the president of the Chicago Blackhawks, William Wirtz. He's a man of mixed emotions on this final regular season home game for the Chicago Blackhawks. Is this a day that you had always knew would come, but had hoped would never come?
This is a day I have dreaded ever since we announced the new building. I'm trying to ignore it. Like it's not really going to happen. Because as far as I'm concerned personally, this is the greatest building to watch a hockey game, and there'll never be another building like it. I say that, and you go across the street and see the bells and the whistles and everything on the new one, you think I'm crazy, And it's not good for selling tickets in a new building either. But today I have to be very honest. It's a very sad day for the Wirtz family, and because we are seeing the last regular season game out of the greatest building that's ever been built. not only for hockey, for basketball as well. And Michael Jordan picked up on a couple of my remarks, and for basketball, he still feels the same way that the Wirtzes feel about hockey in this building.
And this building has not always been the shrine that it is now. It wasn't too many years ago that Chicago Stadium was kind of run down. It wasn't the palace that it is now. That's one of the things that Stan Mikita remembers most, is the difference in Chicago Stadium between the time he joined the Blackhawks and the time he had his number retired and hung from the rafters.
The Wirtzes spent a ton of money trying to fix it up and keep it acceptable to for the public to come in here. And I think they've done a hell of a job with it for the way this place was built and for as old as it is. You hate to see it go, but you know, progress is the thing we're looking at, and I'm looking forward to the new place, but I'll probably shed a couple of tears for this old one.
So you're really giving all of this up?
Who knows what's right? All I know is how I feel, and I'm feeling I missed enough of Jenny's life already. I don't want to miss any more.
You guys going to be okay on one salary?
Actually, our broker at Pay Whoever made it a little easier. When she heard I was pregnant, she got us to start investing long term, to give us more options down the road.
How'd she know you were thinking about all this back then?
I'm not sure I was, until she asked.
The color is rich and alive. The sound, so bold and clear, with Dolby and surround sound. The picture, so lifelike, you'd think you were really there. Advanced video imaging from Zenith delivers richer color, higher contrast, sharper resolution. The ultimate in home theater. Advanced video imaging from Zenith. Watch us.
Well, I think you just tell yourself you're going to stone them, come up with a big save, and, you know, the fans are going to go nuts, and it's just a big thrill. We've been scoring a lot more goals and being a little more offensive and not giving up any of the defense at the same time. So, you know, I think team's probably a little bit nervous about us right now. This is it. Sports Channel, Chicago's playoff headquarters.
Blackhawk fans are still hoping there will be more roars to remember as the season winds down here. The regular season, of course, ends tonight, but that only marks the beginning of the playoff season. And of course, the Blackhawks are hoping to hang one more championship banner at the top of the arena, as the Chicago Bulls have done the past 3 seasons. Billy, it's a great place to play, and explain a little bit what it's like as a player, because really the noise comes cascading down from the second balcony because the people are right on top of the ice.
Definitely are. You know, I was asked today about Montreal Forum, what it was like compared to there. Montreal Forum's got a lot of history in it because of the players they had there and the banners they do have hanging in their rafters. But here at Chicago Stadium, with the fans and the atmosphere, it's totally different. It's a great feeling to play in this building, even if you're a visiting team.
Now, there's so much that goes into being a player here, special things you get to do. Walking up the stairs, you don't get to do that in very many buildings. And I know from the one time I've tried to walk up those things, it's a lot easier to walk up than it is to come down. I would imagine when you're gassed after a period of play, you got to be a little careful coming down those steps.
Well, they are very steep, and that's what some people don't know about. But again, it's fairly dark down there, and when you come up to the ice surface, it's so bright, and with the crowd there, it's just amazing, and it's a great atmosphere to jump on the ice and get those first strides in.
Now, I've also heard opposing players say that really in this building, the first 10 minutes of the game are so key because you have to get the crowd out of it. Once again, you've been here as an opposing player as well. Is that just something everybody likes to say, or is that something people really feel is true?
Well, I really believe that during the 80s that was the case, but now I think players love to come into this building and play also. They like that atmosphere and having the crowd on them. So they love the atmosphere too, and it's a little bit different now. I think both teams like playing at the stadium.
You look around the league, players name their favorite building to play in as an opponent. They say Chicago Stadium is the one. Now let's go back into the arena. Pat Foley is going to MC the pregame ceremonies.
Over the years, Chicago Stadium has been host to virtually all forms of entertainment. Within these walls, history has been made, entertainment provided, and generation after generation of Chicagoans have been given memories that should last a lifetime. Concerts, circus, ice shows, basketball, boxing championships, even the NFL championship game, they've all been here. But one thing is certain when you look around and see how this facility was laid out. Chicago Stadium was built for hockey. hockey that has given this arena its definition. It has been given its heart by the magnificent athletes who have performed here over the years. There were the pioneers like Johnny Gottslig, Mush Marsh, the Bentley brothers, and Paul Thompson. There were the scoring artists like Ed Litzenberger, Bill Hay, and Dennis Savard. There were people with power and skill like Al Secord, Doug Wilson, and Dennis Hull. There were the unsung heroes, Chico Mackey, Kenny Warham, Eric Nestorenko, and Cliff Coral. There were the defenders, Pat Stapleton, Pierre Palat, Moose Vasco, Doug Jarrett, Billy White. There were fierce competitors like Keith Magnuson, Reggie Fleming, and Phil Russell. And for years, there was the magical voice of Lloyd Pettit. If Chicago Stadium has been given its definition by hockey, its heart by the people who have performed here, then it has been given its soul by the people who for generations have had more impact than any arena in the world, the greatest fans in the world. This past season remembering the roar, recalling the great players and fans that have made Blackhawk hockey unique in American sports. For 65 years, this has been the home of the Chicago Blackhawks, and of all the great stars the Hawks have ever had, there are 4 men whose accomplishments in a Blackhawk sweater are so distinguished that their numbers can never be worn again. Blackhawk fans have become accustomed to sparkling goalkeeping. This man tended the net in over 600 games, winning the Vezina Trophy as the league's top goaltender 3 times. He played in 13 All-Star games during his career, and in 1961, he anchored the defense that helped bring the Stanley Cup to Chicago. This man holds an NHL record that will never be broken, appearing in 502 consecutive complete games. He was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1975. The Blackhawks retired number 1 in 1988. Mr. Goalie, Glenn Hall. The year before this next man arrived, the Blackhawks had finished last in the league. As a rookie in 1969, he exploded onto the scene and into the history books, recording 15 shutouts, a modern NHL record that still stands. He won the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year, Vezina Trophy as the league's best goaltender, and the Hawks went from worst to first in the NHL. During his 15-year career, he won the Vezina twice more. He had 30 victories in a season 8 different times, still an NHL record. The Blackhawks retired his number 35 in 1988, the same year he was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame. ladies and gentlemen, Tony, Tony, Tony. Man played at 165 pounds and wore the red, white, and black for 22 years. He lasted that long because what he lacked in size, he made up for with determination, character, and consummate skill. He was one of the greatest playmakers the game has ever seen, winning the league scoring title 4 times. He was twice named the league's most gentlemanly player and twice the most valuable player in the league. He was named to the All-Star team 8 times and helped lead the Blackhawks to the Stanley Cup championship in 1961. He is still the Blackhawks' all-time leader in assists and points. And in 1980, his number 21 was the first ever to be retired by the Blackhawks. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest center iceman the Blackhawks have ever had. Hall of Famer, the uncheckable Czech, Stan Mikita. This man started playing with the Blackhawks in 1957 when he was 18 years old. And he grew into a man of legendary accomplishment. His booming slap shot was unrivaled, and his powerful skating stride lifted people out of their seats. He won the Hart Trophy as the NHL's most valuable player in back-to-back seasons. He won the scoring title 3 times. And he was the first player in NHL history to score more than 50 goals in one season. He topped the 50-goal mark 5 times in his career. He scored more goals than any Blackhawk before or since and was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1983. his middle name should have been Charisma, because he always had time for the fans. Ladies and gentlemen, the best winger the Blackhawks have ever had, the Golden Jet, Bobby Hull. If you'll turn your attention to center ice, we're joined by two more National Hockey League Hall of Famers, bringing the total to 6. Blackhawk President William Wirtz and Vice President Tommy Ivan will present these Blackhawk legends with a special gift in thanks for their contributions to Blackhawk hockey in this historic building. Gentlemen, the original banners have been removed from the stadium rafters, but the legacy left by these great athletes will carry on next season. For the next time you see them, they will be raised with pride in the new building, where they will oversee a new era in Chicago Blackhawk hockey. Pre-game festivities in a few minutes, but for now, the Chicago Blackhawks and the Toronto Maple Leafs will be given a few minutes to get ready for tonight's game.
I think most of the people here in Chicago Stadium could probably go home right now and feel like they had an entire evening of entertainment, but there is still hockey to come. The Hawks and the Maple Leafs coming up on Sports Channel. The Roar pregame show is brought to you in part by your local Dodge dealers.